Hi, Lee from Art of Light Images, and today I'll be discussing these old ass cameras. Is it worth owning one in 2020? Right after this. Hi, thanks for stopping around. So yeah, I'm talking about old cameras today. Now I went out and bought this camera. It's a Fuji X-T1 3 or 4 months ago. And I bought it because I've previously owned similar cameras. I've owned a Fuji X-T10 and I loved it. I loved the image quality. And I was curious, so I went out and bought this and I've started using it. And I've been blown away by it. I absolutely love it. I love the image quality. I love the fact that it's a fairly cheap camera. I can take it out. I'm not as scared about breaking it. I'm not as scared about getting robbed. Of course, I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to me and I wouldn't want to lose my camera, cheap as it is. It cost me £400, which for some people I admit isn't that cheap, but cheaper than an A7 III or an A7R III or a Nikon D850, for example. But it's got me the results and it got me thinking. A few years ago, wedding photographers used these a lot. I mean, these were a very popular camera for weddings. Now, if I were to have gotten married in 2014, 2015, and the photographer used one of these cameras, does that mean that the images that I have now in my album are crap because the X-T3 is out, or the X-H1, or soon to be the X-T4, I imagine? Are my images now crap because they were taken on an old camera 5 or 6 years ago? And if that were the case, then are the images that I'm now taking with my A7 III crap in the future? Are they going to be crap in 2024, 2025? Because the camera came out in 2018. Am I going to look back on them and think, oh, these pictures are crap because they're from 2018? Why would I think like that? And if my images aren't crap because they were taken so long ago, then is an old ass camera crap now? Is this a crap camera now? What do you think? And be nice about it. Anyway, that said, I honestly think that, and this isn't a soapbox exercise, so don't get me wrong, but I've been thinking about this over the last few months because, like a lot of people, I've experienced gear acquisition syndrome, otherwise known as GAS. And I've had this problem for a few years, and I've gone through a hell of a lot of cameras and lenses and drones and other things. And was it really worth it? If I'm getting as much enjoyment out of using this camera now, and if it's giving me results which I feel rival my A7 III, then what the hell have I done over the last 5 or 6 years? Constantly upgrading my gear, spending all this money. I must have spent £50,000–£60,000 on gear just over the last 4 years alone. Upgrading one thing to the next, one lens to the next. Now, I know people say glass. But I honestly feel that necessity is the mother of invention. And if you've got substandard equipment, and if you're creative and if you're intelligent about it, you can find workarounds, you can find creative ways to take images, to shoot video, and the equipment doesn't get in the way. And I think that that's 90% of what it is to be a photographer or even a videographer. I think it's all about what's going on in here, not what's going on in here. So when I take a photograph with this, nobody knows but it's only got 9 phase detect autofocus points. Nobody cares but it's only got 16 megapixels, or but the viewfinder is 2.4 million dots, or but it's only got 1 SD card. People care about the image. When I look at an amazing image, some photographers say, yeah, they wonder what camera it was taken on, what lens was used and all the rest of it, what the ISO was, blah, blah, blah. But I honestly want to look at the image. I want to be enthralled by the image. I want the image to tell me something, to give me some kind of visual sort of narration. I want to look at an image and I want to think, wow, that's incredible. I want it to tell me a story. I want to be sucked in, so to speak. I don't want to know what the f-stop is. I'm not interested in what the shutter speed was or what the ISO was. I'm not looking for those details. If I'm looking for those details in an image, then surely I've missed the whole point of the image. It's like looking at a painting and wondering what blasted brush was used, what kind of paint did they use, kind of paper was used for the painting to be painted upon? What easel was used? No one cares. A good painting speaks for itself. A good picture speaks for itself. I honestly think that real photography happens in here. This is the camera, not this. This is the shutter button, or this may be, not this. It's about you. It's not about the gear. So I'm going to run past you guys 18 images. Now, I know at this point a lot of people will just switch off and it'll be like, I don't want to look at these images. I'm not interested. Is there showing off his images? Well, I'm not actually. I'm just trying, or maybe I am. No, I'm not. I just want to show you various cameras that I've used over the years, which are now old ass cameras. Okay. And these cameras date back, digitally speaking, right back to Fred Flintstone era. And I want you to look at these images and I want you to be honest with yourselves. Looking at these, if I were to say to you, or if anyone, perhaps you don't trust me, but if anyone was to say to you, these images were taken with a Nikon D850, a Sony A7R4, a Sony A9 Mark II, a Canon 5D Mark IV, whatever. If somebody were to tell you that these pictures were taken with a high-end camera, would you believe them? Write the comments below and be nice about it. There's no need to be meanies. Right, so I don't know if there'll be music with this. I'm hoping there will be, but I've got to find some free music online. Here it goes. Run the show. Right, so that's the slideshow. Those are the images from all those old ass cameras dating right back to 2005. Now here's another thought. Back in the days of film, you'd buy a camera. I know most of you won't remember back in the days of film, but just suffer me this explanation. Okay, you'd buy a camera and you'd be happy with it for years because the camera didn't matter. If you had a good camera, if it was a fantastically good camera, like a Nikon F1, then you'd keep hold of it. It'd be a really good camera and it would last you for 10, 15 years. You'd go out with that camera, people would say, wow, you got a Nikon F1. That's fantastic. The film would be important. So you might spend money on film, on expensive film, on experimental film. A lot of your thinking and your thoughts would be based on how to use filters, how to get away with long exposures in certain conditions, doing astrophotography, using a flash. And you wouldn't know how well you'd done until you took those images in, had them processed, and maybe a week or two later you get them back and then you think that worked, that didn't work, and it was a slower process. So photography was a much slower process. So you go out, you probably only afford 2 or 3 rolls of film for a week, and you had to make it last. So you were more selective about the images that you took. You were more careful. It was more about you, less about the camera. Nowadays, especially with smartphones, it's snap, 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 snap. You'll go out, I know I do, to a zoo or something. I might take 1,000 photos and then I'll pick maybe 10 or 15 of the favourite ones and I'll put those in my portfolio. So how about this? Whether you've got a new camera or an old camera, just try and limit yourself. Limit the amount of images that you take. Think about creative ways to bypass problems. Go out with an old ass lens. You might have a good camera, but if you've got an older lens or a lens that's not very fast, take it out, have a go with it. Just try and think of ways around the equipment. Think about how you think, what your creative processes are, problem solving. Get those juices up here flowing. Try to rely less on this. And I think if you were to do that, if you were to treat yourself to this experience once every couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure you'd become a better photographer. I think you become more skilled and you'd be more reflective in every time you take a shot, and it will slow you down, because that's what these older cameras did. That's what the X-T1, though relatively speaking it's not that old, 2014, but it slows me down, it makes me think, and it allows me to take better shots. It's really changed the way I think about my photography. And I've been using cameras for quite a few years, from the days of film right up to now, and I've gotten into this bad habit of wanting and feeling that I need the next best thing, tricking myself, thinking to myself, oh, my competitors, they'll have this, or yeah, if I've got better ISO performance, it will improve the quality of my images, it'll be fantastic for weddings, the bride will love it. And all the time I'm sacrificing a little bit more from up here. It's a little bit like weightlifting. Now, if you get somebody else or something else to lift the weights for you, you're not going to do as well. You're not going to become as strong. You're not going to become as athletic. You're not going to become, I can't think of any more words what you could become, but you get what I'm trying to say. Don't let the equipment do the lifting for you. You do the lifting. This is just a tool to get a job done. So I honestly feel now, having bought this and used this, I don't want to ever sell this. I hope it never breaks, but it will do at some point. I know it will. But I'm loving it, and it's retaught me, and it's allowed me to reflect on myself and what I'm doing. And it's got me thinking about not just cameras, but other gear as well. Drones, damn it. I mean, really? I mean, you could go out, you could buy an old drone, and if you know how to fly it properly, if you know what you're doing, if you know how to get the shot, if you know how to use shadow and light, and how to fly backwards at the right time and all the rest of it. I know I'm jibber-jabbering a little bit, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's about skilling yourself up. It's about becoming a more skilled photographer and videographer. So I'll leave that one with you. I know it's been a little bit of a soapbox exercise, don't get me wrong. But I think it's important. I think it's important, but you just kind of relax and think to yourself, yeah, I've got a camera right now, but do I really need to upgrade this thing? Do I really need the next lens? Is it really going to make my photography better? Is it really going to improve my chances of getting work? Just think about it. Because you know what? That little voice in here, that little voice that's kind of gas fueled, if you like. A little voice that just needs more gas, needs more gear. That will tell you anything. That will lie to you. It will trick you. I know it sounds crazy, but I think it's true. Just think about it. Anyway, I'm going to go away, have a cheese sandwich and a cup of tea. Until next time, get out there and do something interesting.